Okay. 11 Days of Remembrance, Day 5. Chapter 5. Friendly Fire. It is January 7th, 1945, and the air crews of the number 12, 626 Squadron preparing for a night raid on Munich. Doug Crow is used to the flight routine. This is to be his 24th sortie, and he is managed to function automatic even though present his aircraft is a Lancaster Mark I called Old Sugar II. Fully loaded, she will potentially out the tarmac. Old Sugar II's crew include 5 Canadians, Flight Officer R. Marshall Smith, Pilot Flight Officer J. Ken Yeeman, Navigator Flight Officer Dave Reimer, Bombardier Flight Sergeant Doug Crow, Mid-Upper Gunner, and Sergeant Crowline Flight Engineer. Rounding out the aircrew are 2 non-Canadian Flight Sergeant Jeff McGee from Australia, wireless operator, and Sergeant William Bill McLean from England. Rear gunner Bill McLean is new. Introduced to the other crew briefing, he is replacing the crew's original rear gunner, who was killed on their way home from laying mines. The men in the air crew are uncomfortable with taking on a member that has never flown with them before. Rear gunner are paramount to the safety of their upper blind spot and levels the crew vulnerable to attack from behind and below. The enemy fighters know this, which is one of the reasons why they left expectancy of a rear gunner is only 5 weeks. Night fighters really on the element of surprise and aim to the rear gunner first. Old Sugar II takes to the air at 6:44 p.m. at the Bomberstream across Senzers, France. They are into heavy cloud, and Pilot Marshall Smith adjusts their heavy cloud adjuster slightly to 90 degree while they climb to sky. Ted Raymer responds seeing the lights of an aircraft too close to the port side of the heavy kites, and the main bomber stream don't normally display navigation lights this close to the target, so the crew is immediately on their guard. Suddenly there is a barrage orange flash and the kite jumps, sending the crew members flying. Doug feels nauseous as air rushes around him. Sugar is hit severely around his mid-upper turret. Doug's worst fears are realized when he eyes that the rear gunner's turret has been completely blown out. There is only a gap hole where Bill once sat. Now flying at 15,000 feet, the Lancaster is about 19 kilometers northwest of the main track. The wounded kite stares into a slow diving turn that Marshall is unavailable to pull up from. He struggles for a few seconds and then orders everyone to abandon the bomber. Doug climbs down from the turret and reports that the rear gunner is nowhere to be found. Everyone le- left on the plane is scrambling to re- reiterate everyone that is except Marshall. He sees that the kite is too close to some U.S. troops doing maneuvers on the ground, and also spots a small village and a U.S. Army field hospital nearby. Marshall decides that in order to avoid further catastrophe, they must continue to fight for control of the bomber. He ways to give the crew time briefly out to talk. The rattling, banging in the aircraft is enough to break teeth, and the stench of smoke is getting stronger as the rest of the crew leaves by either the front hatch or the rear door. Marshall ruins the controls, trying his best to hold back the clutch. Old Sugar 2 is heading straight for town of Lyon, France. Just before losing total control, Marshall gives all the power to the kite has four engines. This forward thruster carves the aircraft forward and cuts down her run. It flames out boldly up at 9 p.m. The body of pilot Marshall Sud is thrown 15 meters from the wreck. The five remaining crew are peeling out at 15,000 feet, hit upwards from the heavy cloud cover. At time, they are pushed behind their air. Instead, the 30 minutes navigator takes 45 tours independently of one another. The crew members bury their suits in the snow and follow straight procedure. Head away from the crash site. Doug Crow lands in the opposite field, surrounded by trees. He knows that he's close to the front lines, but isn't sure where exactly he has landed. Looking around the field for a way out, he'll follow a fence line. After walking some distance, he comes to a gate open over Lower Lane. The lane led over the village, taking at the state night. Doug carefully scans the village to determine the location of the church. He approached some French farmers who invited him into their home. The Frenchmen call the village priest and short the law bearer at a U.S. Army vehicle arrives to transport Doug to a U.S. military traffic control point. There, Doug is reunited with the air crews Ken Yoder's, Jeff McGee, and Crystal Lane. They are sent over to Squadron Headquarters. Allied Expeditionary Forces Chef who worry that they are alive. Doug remains is clear some distance away and taken to Chef Headquarters. Ryan, Bill, rear gunner, turret, however, are never found. Flight Officer R. Marshall Smith was never officially recognized for his selfless act. Still, the fact tremors all had the pilot abandon his post to save himself, his crew, and countless strangers would have not survived the Sugar's crash. In fact, his own death to save people he had never met. Marshall Smith continued an act of extreme bravery and heroism. There is a difference of operation as what actually happened to Old Sugar 2. The above encounter has been compressed from the official record. However, there is another version of the story on the evening of January 7th, 1955. U.S. troops near Lyon had been firing anti-aircraft guns at some bombers, thinking they were Jerry's. Sugar had been flying so close to the bomber displaying navigation lights that there is some speculation she was hit by friendly fire. That's the end of chapter 5, and the, I thank the veterans who fought in World War II so I can read this book, and I got the so I can read this book and have my own I can make my own YouTube videos. And I'll read chapter 6 tomorrow. And if you see a veteran and maybe have a tea or coffee with them, but they seem lonely, they probably need a friend. And I dedicate this to the people fighting in Ukraine, and may you find peace.